Let's continue watching.
Hip hop guys have used just the same song. Behind the Mask was Eric Clapton. Shoot. If we said yes, probably I would have 10 different houses in all over the world.
But I somehow have the feeling you're doing all right anyway.
Then the next one who covered, actually it's the same song, Behind the Mask, was Eric Clapton. But it's not, well, it's a different way, like hip hop guys have used some elements from our music. Also, actually, I met Afrika Bambaataa in the 80s, and he said YMO and Kraftwerk were two biggest inspirations for hip hop. He was a big guy, but very, very shy, and he asked me to write down my autograph. Anyway, so probably he made some big connection between hip hop culture and techno music, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, he might have had a hand or two in that, yes. Just so. Yeah, and I mean, there's some stuff that maybe we play at the very end when everyone's getting out. But what I found most fascinating when you look at the entire video, which you will obviously find online, is that knowing how much technology we these days buy from Japan, and especially the vintage stuff, hardly anything you see on there is actually Japanese. There's a lot of, you see Buchler systems, you see ARPs. What else is there? An Oberheim.
A Prophet.
Sequential circuits.
Yeah.
So it's like
Oberheim, Polymoog, maybe.
So did the Japanese music instrument industry not exist to that degree yet, or why were you more using these kind of machines?
It existed at the time, of course.
Yeah.
We used the Roland Micro 8.
MC8?
MC8.
Yeah.
That was a very center of creative music for us. But
I think he also used the Korg sequencer, which is a Japanese company as well.
Yes, Korg.
Yeah.
Then maybe a few years later, DX7 came out, and we really loved it. And vocoder was also maybe a Korg or Roland.
The striking thing I found when you look at the setup as such is with the Korg and the MC8 that you have like two different sequences in the whole thing. So how did that work? How did you make all these different sequences gel as a band in talking to each other?
Well, up until the second generation MC4 came out, actually MC8 didn't have a memory. So during the show, our programmer had to program next song here, and next one after that, the second one. If someone hit the cable or something to turn off the MC8, that's it.
Concert over.
Over.
So how many units did you then bring on the show?
Well, we used two MC8, and probably we had two as a backup. That's it.
Carsten, I mean, there's been companies like the VEB Vermona at the time, but can you remember when you recalled your first electronic instrument?
I was not actually actively making music in the East German times. I only know from my friends Olaf and Frank, who had an electronic band. And they, of course, been very much interested to, for instance, get a C Commodore 64, this kind of thing, or in this time this would be but it was simply not affordable for us. I mean, it was simply much too expensive. I mean, you needed to put all your money away for at least 3 or 4 years in order to buy one of that instruments. So it was really kind of, by the time you maybe had the money collected, other instruments being available, and then you had, but generally, I think a few of these machines, I mean, Vermona was, but I think there was a drum machine from Vermona existing. There was some synths, but not super exciting, let's say, for us. Yeah, so.
What did excite you?
I mean, what we made music with was very, very basic equipment. Let's say, for instance, what I got much more excited was to play with cassette loops, building little tape loops, and that was very easy and affordable. And taking radio shortwave signals as signal producer, for instance, what I still do until today was a great inspiration or something. So you had already some, like the radio and the tape, the same equipment what we recorded with music, we used as well to start making music with. Yeah. So this was a very simple, basic way of sketching things out. Yeah.
And what of those techniques do you still apply when you do stuff today?
Yeah, sure. The idea of the loops, for instance, was a very driving force for me for a long time.
Did you do that with 2 tape decks, or physically were cutting the tape?
In the beginning, I was really making my own cassettes, and then like only cassette I used. I not even had big loops or something running. And then later. And in the moment the computer came, of course, you did it with the computer, but there was a sampler in between, like when we could afford a sampler. Yeah.
Your job at the time was being a gardener before you studied, right?
I worked as a gardener for 1 year, yeah.
And then you studied what?
Architecture, specialized landscape design. Yeah.
Now, obviously, if you look at the way someone can construct music, there can be some sort of parallel, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the way how I started making music was very architecturally, I would say. I was not so much interested, for instance, in melodies, or was more like really, let's say, I was not interested in the facade of the building. I was rather in the construction, like I was much more interested in the rhythmic parts of a track rather than writing a song or something. Yeah.
You're not like you agree a lot.
Well, that's the most interesting part of this collaboration, because we had such different backgrounds. I'm fully classically trained since I was a kid, and he's not. He's thinking of creating music is much more, to me, more mathematical, based on numbers. Doesn't have to be Russian number,
but one could argue that classical music is very numerical and logical as well.
Yeah, in a way.
But we had there was, for instance, in the beginning, I was everything calculating because I worked with loops in milliseconds, and I didn't know what kind of bar system I'm using. And then Ryuichi came, so this is a 5/4. So okay. So I didn't know and so I really, basically then what you learn is that there's a notation system. There's the classical notation system, is a language, what I was not aware of. And I basically, when Ryuichi talked about, okay, this is an A, And I was saying, yeah, this is 220 hertz actually. You know, I mean, and then I was, because we talk about the same thing,
Yes.
but there was a problem of translation. Yeah, lost in translation.
Yeah, lost in
Yeah.
translation. Yeah, I'm much more traditional in that sense, but also because I'm very classically trained, but my curiosity is so huge, and I always want to forget what I've learned. So that's why I got like his music and new kind of music. So it's to me it's very inspiring to look at how he creates music and how he designs sound and music.
But that's a very tricky situation, because with that curiosity, you learned a lot about very different cultures, very different types of music. So there's a lot to forget for you as well, like all the time. Like, how do you manage that process?
I have to forget a lot, but I'm good at that. Yeah.
Now, like with every couple, there's the question: how did the two of you meet actually?
It was probably late 90s, 98 or 99. Probably when you had a performance, first performance in Tokyo.
My first performance in Tokyo.
Yeah. Actually, Ryoji Ikeda introduced us.
Yeah.
Who is a really brilliant both visual and sound artist as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. He was on this day performing with me, and then Ryoji came to me after the concert. Because we became.
I want to know Ryuichi Ikeda. Let's look map. Ryuichi Ikeda. This is Ryuichi Ikeda. Maybe some signal and visual things, synchronization. I wonder how they produce visual like this. that was Ryoji Ikeda. Let's go back to interview.
We met as well and became really good friends because I was pushing the sound guys to put a bigger PA inside, and he really loved that I was so hard fighting for the bigger PA. And so we became kind of good friends, and then he said after the show, hey, you have time, come with me, and then I want to introduce you to some of my friends, and then that's how we met. Yeah.
But that was like 3 or 4 years before your first actual release, at least. So
at least.
What happened in the 4 years of dating then?
Well, yeah, around that time, I was on a totally different project. It's a covering music of Antonio Carlos Jobim with the Brazilian musicians. We actually went into Jobim's house in Rio de Janeiro, and we even used his own piano to record, and we covered some, his music, and then we wanted to make a remix, and I asked him to remix one of our tracks. So he remixed Jobim's music, bossa nova music. It was strange, and the Brazilians didn't like it, and I loved it. So
let me just see, because then again, it might not be too instrumental for what we're talking about now, but we could have played some. Okay, what was the first bit that you actually worked?
I want to see or listen the cover. I'm not sure this is, but I skip some. So it might be experimental, ambient sound and music. And maybe using sampling and effect. That's nice. I'm not sure about the bossa nova. Bossa nova collaboration. Let's try this. It's by this river. That was by this river. And go back to interview. I couldn't find the bossa nova things.